Welcome to Wisdom of the Way with me, Sai, a podcast to inspire, enliven, and explore Camino wisdom and life wisdom. Join me from my home on the transformative Camino de Santiago in Spain as we share stories and learnings with incredible pilgrims and teachers from all over the world. Hola, welcome to Wisdom of the Way, and I am so excited to be sharing with you this conversation and also bringing to you Tomi Kokko, who's an incredible man, an incredible teacher, a beautiful friend and brother, and it's been a real privilege to take the Camino with him, to take the journey with him over these years. Now, when I first met Tomi, which is 3 years ago, he was in deep crisis. And this is a conversation exploring some of that situation. So he was a successful entrepreneur and successful in the terms of how we see it in society, looking out. He had everything you could imagine. He's this beautiful young man, full of vitality, hitting the goals and living the dream life. What that resulted in for him at some stage was a complete breakdown. And when we met, he was not well. He was in a deep inner crisis, disconnected from self, miserable, depressed. Anxiety was at a high level and his nervous system was absolutely shot. And it was such an incredibly challenging moment and yet such a powerful moment. And he came to the Camino, but not in the traditional sense, because it wouldn't have even been possible to walk the Camino. He came, we spent time together, about a month, and we went on a journey together, and it was incredible, and it continues to be incredible, the work that he does today, but the work that he did with himself on that deep inner journey, that inner Camino. And he was incredibly dedicated to lifting himself out, and he applied himself in every way, with meditation, yoga, self-reflection, self-inquiry, which it's actually a beautiful synergy. I'm here in South India in another pilgrimage, and this mountain at the back, Arunachala, which not only is a place of pilgrimage, and it's well known around the world for being the place of Ramana Maharishi, who is associated with self-inquiry, and that's another story. So this interview takes place in Finland at a completely different temperature. Here it's at the end of the day, but it's mid-30s, and this conversation we had was around a fire outside in the snow, -30. It's inspiring, and it's a great example of someone breaking free of old habits that are no longer serving and creating a more mindful and meaningful life experience. Hope you enjoy it. Please feel free to share it with your communities, with your families and friends. Leave a review. We really appreciate this being able to go out into the world. And for now, enjoy meeting Tomi Kokko.
Tomi Kokko tässä, terve. Morjesta. 38-vuotias nuori mies Suomesta, Finland. Ja ennen Caminoa niin yrittäjänä, intohimoinen yrittäjä. Ja well, good afternoon. My name is Tomi Kokko. I'm from Helsinki, Finland, 38 years old, entrepreneur in wellness space, and I've gone into a deep journey with myself, which we will discuss here by a beautiful fire, Finland, Lapland, above Arctic Circle. -25 degrees right now, something like that, so it's not hot.
It's not hot. That's the hot tip, huh?
Yeah, that's the hot tip.
Beautiful, Tommy. Great to be here with you, brother. Thanks, and you're on mate duty.
Thank you, brother.
I think this is your first Spanish word to matero, no? One of your other titles?
It is matero.
Well, it's great to be here. I mean, it's really special to be here. We are in Lapland, in the very north of Finland, where the elves and Santa lives, and the beautiful lights exist, and It's really a special place. I've never been anywhere in the world like this. Tell me what brought you to the Camino? And maybe I'll just give a little introduction because your Camino journey isn't the traditional journey, and in your life in your life so far you've lived many deep experiences around the world. A lot of hard work, a lot of success, a lot of devotion to your work. All of those things brought you to where we are today. And we met 6 months ago. Tell us a little bit about that journey before the Camino, and then we'll share a bit about what your Camino journey was or is.
Yeah, before the Camino, I was working extremely hard, and I think my story, every story is different, but in the entrepreneurial world, I believe it's quite common that I was working for myself and my company for over 10 years, and I established quite big business first in Australia, where I learned my lessons, and then moved back to Finland 2014, 8 years ago. That's where I kind of put everything together that I learned in business so far, and I established a online coaching company, and we had over 20,000 clients in Finland alone over the years, and beautiful journey, great journey. Enjoyed helping people, and there was amazing things in it. But at the same time, in the last few years, the more I worked and the more success and recognition I got, the less I started feeling fulfilled inside, and where in the last couple of years I started feeling everything else but enjoyable anymore. Became such a hard work, and it was just pushing, and the joy was gone from the work, and it was physically exhausting. Then there was becoming like a mental challenges as well with all of it, and it came to a state that I was trying to put a mask on, and I did for some years, but it came to a stage that I couldn't hide from the truth anymore, and I had to stop, which was a blessing. So I stopped working 6 months ago, and decided that I'm gonna take a break, give some time to myself, go deeper inside to an internal journey, to a spiritual journey, and decided and see what happens, and I guess that's, in a nutshell, that's the journey thus far.
Yeah, sure. Brother, tell me obviously during these years leading up to this decision 6 months ago, you were trying a lot of things to try and get your health back, as you'd say, get back to where you were. And the one thing is, when it's minus 25, minus 30, there's it's very easy to go a bit more direct. Vamos al grano, as they say in Spanish. Let's go to the grain of it. So, what did you try in that time of being able to find your balance, find your peace, and be good with yourself prior to the 6 months? Because I'm sure it's a really common situation for so many people around the world, huh?
Oh, for sure. And I, in my opinion, I tried everything, and like looking back now, it was it's funny how the mind works in a way that, like, especially if you had success and you had moments in your career or somewhere where you felt absolutely amazing, you felt pleasure, you felt fulfilled, you felt everything. So when you not there anymore, the mind wants to go back. So then the mind says to yourself, it's like, all right, what can I do to get back where I was? I felt great, everything was going good. What can I do? So when I think about it, it's completely like upside down. Like, you don't want to go back, but the mind says, because the mind is and the ego is very afraid of the unknown, so you want to go back. So therefore I tried everything from different supplements, different nutrition strategies, different herbal medicine, different journeys, rest, changing scenery, moving to a countryside, everything. And even though the actions might have been great, but the intention was based on fear. It was like, how do I get back? So yeah, I tried everything, and like I think everyone knows, like, yeah, you do something and you might feel great for a week or 2 weeks, a month, but then the stuff from deeper inside keeps coming to the surface, and you just try to hide it and hide it and hide it, and that's what I did for many years.
Yeah. And how hard is it to overcome that mentality of wanting to go back, wanting to be back? Because I know when we first met, it was something that we spoke a lot about and said a lot about, of like, I just want to get back. I just want to get back. Again, this is a pretty common situation for people. What helped you to come to this realization that there really wasn't going back and it was going forward?
Well, for me, it was because my whole identity was in the back where I was trying to get. It was that entrepreneur was doing this and that, and kind of being an author and like a role model to so many. But the place where I was building the identity from, it was a little bit of like quite strong ego, strong mind. So it was very hard, because when I was in the emptiness, I had nothing, right? So going back was the only thing I knew. So for me, it was super hard. Like you asked, like, was it hard? Extremely hard. And it was it's hard to surrender to it and surrender to the unknown and the emptiness. And it took many months to be comfortable with it. And I guess at some point the mind gets tired as well, in a way, which is good. It's kind of like, all right, well, we can fight it for another few years, but let's get on with it, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So 6 months ago, come to the decision to come to the Camino. This is where we met. Like I said at the start, not a traditional Camino journey, but a deep Camino journey, a journey of healing, of awakening something within you. And to give a bit of context to that, we met where I live on the Camino in Galicia, and started a journey together. And I guess your Camino journey meant that it really meant that you weren't walking long distances during the day, but you were taking a deep inner Camino. Tell us a little bit about that journey and why that is still a relevant Camino.
Yeah, well, I think yourself, you said that every Camino is different, and when I started my Camino, inner Camino, I wasn't physically in a too great condition either. Like, there were many days that, just to give you context, many days that I couldn't get out of bed, literally, and I was just laying down, and I had no strength, mental or physical strength to do anything. So I knew that my Camino is going to be very different. And when I came to your place, even though I walked around the Camino a little bit, but 2-3 kilometers and I was done. I was so had no strength in me, but pretty quickly I realized that my Camino is going to go very deeply within, and it's going to be less physical and just more finding myself and digging deeper in the stillness, and it was beautiful. I committed to the process straight away, and the practices for me was very, very important, and they started, I guess, doing their deeper work straight away, talking about breathing and Kriya Yoga and meditation. Finally allowing myself to stop, and allowing myself stop with care and curiosity, rather than me feeling that stopping is a mistake. because the ego says you can't stop, you need to go back. So, and it was so much easier to do that decision and embark the spiritual devotional journey when I was at your place, obviously with your guidance, which I'm deeply grateful for. But if I was home and trying to do that, it just wouldn't work. Which for me, and I guess for many, one of the invitation is to leave your surroundings and go to a place where you not doing your daily routines like you do every day, where you can really gain perspective and actually just relax and stop and start not building yourself up, but to start, going deeper do the inner work.
Yeah. So to put it in context, where there's a practice that we're sharing, self-learning, self-observation. So I think that's also part of, probably as an observer and someone walking with you, that's a really important part of refining the understanding, refining the intellect, our deep conditioning, our deep patterns of thinking things and seeing things, like being able to have space to reflect, to journal, to be in the space and to be with what is, which is obviously where it also gets a bit tricky and hard. Of thoughts are coming up, negative thoughts or toxic conditioning that kind of sabotages the way of our journey or our progress even. So practices you were doing, and as also someone observing, I think one of the things that was so important and powerful in your journey was the dedication to the work, to the practice, and to the refining the intellect. But you were practicing every day, 2-3 times a day, with solid focus.
Yeah, for me it was like you said, and I said to myself when I came to the Camino, to your place, it was like I decided straight away, whatever needs to be done, I'll just get on with it and do it, because, and I think it's like it's a fine balance between, being and just taking it easy and listening to your body, but also having dedication to work. And that's kind of like, it's a tricky balance between when you talk about relaxation and inner work. But I feel that there still needs to be some sort of structure, and I still feel that there needs to be a dedication to it, because otherwise, like you said, the mind just justifies everything, and it's like, all right, today I'm not going to do anything, I'm tired, so I'm going to just do nothing. But then for me, it would be, if I was home, I would be just watching movies or watching Netflix. So that is not always the ideal if you want to go do the inner work, because that's once again it's a way to escape. So yeah, for me it was dedication, but I don't want to make it sound too hard either. Like once you dedicate and devote yourself, it doesn't take long. For me, it took maybe a week when I started, feeling a little bit of space between my thoughts. I was like, okay, this is interesting. I haven't felt like this for a while, so let's keep going. And even though what I learned from you was we only practice to practice, and you don't do the meditation to once again to escape or go somewhere else, but you do it because you just want to practice, and you go deeper, and soon it doesn't take, like I said, a few days later you actually start feeling that dedication is boosting your self-confidence as well, and giving you empowerment in a deep way. So
yeah, it's like this consistency of showing up. It's like raising our deserving power too, and this stability. So there's this in the journey of awakening something or seeing something that's new. Then there's obviously fluctuations, go up, go down, but kind of ironing out these fluctuations. And the other thing that I think is really important on this is the practice, meditation, for example. It's teaching us to to observe our thoughts, to accept what's going on without the need to correct something, to change something, just to learn to be in the seat of the observer, which I think really is challenging. It goes against what a lot of the way that we sometimes live our lives. That is like taking control, taking action, looking for a particular result. This challenge of like, and again, in a practice, I do something physical, and I feel it in my body, and there's a result. I feel good, or there's a release of endorphins. Or what helped you come to this kind of helped remind you or come to this? Because in the first couple of months, especially, there's a lot of doubt that comes up. There's a lot of conflict within experience and mind, in the sense of like, but it should be like this, or I should have this kind of result. What helped you kind of find stability on that journey, aside from doing the practices, obviously?
Well, there were a few things that was important for me. One was that the practice helped me to see my own narrative that I'm telling myself in a different way. Because like we all have a story, and the story is how my life is going and what's caused what and why this is that. And the practice helped me to become aware of my story, and also not to change it, but just to observe it. And then once I observe it, it started to has less importance. I need to have a story in my life. And second thing that comes to my awareness right now is to just to meet not as many people, just to meet other people along the journey as well, that are going into doing the inner work. And it's obviously sometimes challenging. When I got back, I found that this new, deeper journey, that it doesn't resonate with all my previous friends. Like, not everyone is like excited about it. Not everyone wants to change. So it's another challenge, is to find more like-minded people, as cliche as it is. But if you have like-minded people that you can practice with, and you can share in a deeper way, and you can really who can hear you, not judgmental way, and not also supporting your story. Because sometimes we found that we have friends and family, which is extremely important, but they just often make our story even stronger. This is what happened to me, this is what was done, this because of that person. And then we have friends who support us, like, yeah, that's the way it is. And then we justify ourselves even further, the story. And for me, it's been all about a little bit breaking up with the story, but in a loving, caring way. If it makes any sense.
Good breakup, huh?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, releasing with love and acceptance. That's in the end, it's really the only way. Like, otherwise, I think we're in some form of conflict with ourselves, with our past, or with a relationship. Returning home, it's a big one. It's a big one for like anyone who takes a big journey, whether it's on the Camino de Santiago, whether it's like on a deep inner journey, wherever, a type of pilgrimage out in the world and within. Always a challenge, returning home. It's like these famous quotes that say, if you think you're enlightened, go home and live with your family for some time. Really test it. Share a little bit about this experience and the advice that you'd have, because even if I think it's relevant. What are ways that supported you to be able to integrate this experience of you being away in Spain in the Camino and this deep inner journey?
Well, for me, there was two things that were really important. One was the practice, because the practice is something that, regardless where you're at, if you do the practice, meditation, and for example, yoga and the Kriya yoga we do, regardless where you're at, you know that it will raise the level of consciousness, and it will, it keeps get the process going forward. The practice for me was a big thing, and the second was journaling, because that again is just that inner conversation with yourself, with your deep yourself. And whenever I journal, if I journal, write daily, it doesn't have to be an hour, it could be 10-15 minutes to see, check in with myself with a little diary, and then also doing my practice 2-3 times a day. That alone gets me the integration part pretty well on its way. And I know myself that if I didn't do those two, then it will be just a matter of time that kind of things might fall back to its place, to the old way, because it's so deeply conditioned. Many years done, and you've thought about certain patterns and do certain things in certain order. So yeah, those help to break the patterns.
Yeah, great. I guess the other thing is also rituals, mindful rituals. We're really creatures of habit and ritual, and visual. So being mindful about the rituals that we're making, whatever that is. I mean, we're here drinking mate, and we can have a good laugh about that. But if, for example, coffee was a big part of your life. No, it was a big addiction that you had, and now it doesn't seem to be such a part of your daily life. Changing habits, how can you share some of this mindfulness around changing habits and having strength or courage to be able to stick with it?
Well, once again, it's just comes back to the story and to the narrative. And for me, I always drank coffee. I always drank my morning coffee, and it was part of who I was, part of my story, even though I didn't know about it. And once I was going to my deeper journey and felt a lot of pain and suffering, every time I drank coffee, I felt worse. But I still kept drinking it, because there was just the mind plays trick on you, because you've had such great experiences with coffee in the past. It's like, maybe this time it'll actually open something up and gives me good feelings. And it really does. So once again, it comes back to also the dedication and honesty. And once I knew that the right coffee is not gonna take me closer to myself, I need to. And also, it's important not to think about it too dramatically, in a way that, all right, now I'm gonna never drink coffee again. For me, it was like, all right, we'll try for a couple of weeks. It's to be just an invitation to myself to try a couple of weeks without coffee. And then also, it's a good way to replace your so-called, I don't want to call it bad habits, but habits that don't support you, replace it with habits that support you a little bit more. So I started drinking yerba mate, and even though it has caffeine, but it's a more grounding drink, and it gives me a bit deeper connection. You know what I mean? So that's a good tip as well, is not to go cold turkey.
Yeah.
But you can replace the habit with something else. And that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And I guess the other thing is something you touched on, being mindful of the environment that you keep, like the conversations that you have, who you're spending time with, that is supportive to your process. It's a big one for returning home. And the mindfulness around just the journey, I guess. Like there will be days that will be more challenging when you return home, and you did experience a bit of that. Sort of like coming back to this, and we're visual beings as well. So like all of these, even returning home, seeing the things that we've seen for a long time, they have an impact on the way we think and we operate or activate old patterns as well. Are there particular things that you did around changing some of your environment? Like I've been in your home with your beautiful family for a little bit here, and I see that you've got an altar. We go and meditate there, and some devotional spaces. Are there things that kind of supported that aspect of keeping your journey, your inner Camino alive?
Yeah, like you said, altar, like where I have meaningful things and do my meditation. And for me, not necessarily about the environment, it's more necessarily more about the habits. Like when you wake up and you do the gratefulness exercise and morning meditation. I don't have a coffee. Go and get some fresh air. Go take a cold shower. Like it's just those basic.
Take a little dip in the ice.
Take ice bath. Like things that support you and challenge you sometimes as well. They can
definitely talk about that for sure.
Yeah. And it's just been to bring that mindfulness to the habits. That was the big thing. For example, like not to. I think it's important, at least for me, is not to be not too cutthroat. Like, all right, now I'm gonna just be in a spiritual journey, so I'm gonna only listen Ram Dass and Eckhart Tolle. I'm not gonna watch any movies and not gonna drink any alcohol ever again. And I'm gonna become a monk. Like, for me, it doesn't work. So it's kind of like approaching everything with curiosity, and it's like, I feel like watching a movie tonight. Cool, maybe I'll watch a movie. It's not like, alright, there's something bad, I shouldn't watch Netflix, and then you start getting these weird loops again. It's like, yeah, if you watch a movie, then enjoy it. But then if it comes to, and you notice you're watching movies every day, at some point you're gonna have to sort of bring awareness and be truthful to yourself. Is this supporting or is this like escaping?
And I guess the other thing is, as you're doing these practices and meditating and being as mindful as you possibly can in any given moment, and you're deepening and developing your consciousness, some of these things fall away, like some of these, whether they're habits or thoughts or even interests, the charm of watching something that might be not so inspiring or elevating kind of falls away. I mean, do you have experience of this?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's like, which I learned from you, was that we were talking about some of the compulsions that I had, and then you said it well. You said something along these lines that you don't have to think about that. Just focus on the practice, and then slowly you might see that it'll start, if not falling away, at least having less charm. And that happened to, for example, like watching movies in Netflix. It's I didn't even have to think about it. I just devoted myself to the practice and being mindful and conscious. And at some point felt like, I remember times that I was trying to watch movies and I was like, this doesn't, it doesn't feel charming at all. And then I decided to do something else. So absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful way. And it kind of takes the pressure out of it, like we spoke about coffee. It's not like, right, I'm not going to drink coffee and let's see how many days I can last. But it's like, no, if I wanted to drink coffee now, I would drink coffee. But it doesn't, it doesn't invite me. It's like I was just doing the practice and I know how it makes me feel and I can be truthful to it. It's like, don't need it right now. Maybe tomorrow I feel like having coffee. I can have a coffee. I don't have to get too worked up about it.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Thanks for sharing, for welcoming us here. Welcoming us. I think everything's still recording, so that's the phone saying, yeah, the air temperature is too low and it's dropping and it's going to cut out. So we've done well to get here. I'd love to, just leave on this note and remember that, in the end, a journey or a Camino is, whatever you make it to be. And I think yours is a great example of someone who's taken a Camino without having to, only walk the traditional way. What we're used to on the Camino de Santiago is people walking a long distance, many from France or for a month. Your month was walking within, and I think you've done you've taken an amazing journey, and look forward to seeing you back on the Camino at some stage back in Spain. And do you have inspiration or thoughts to walk the Camino after having lived on it for a month?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me it'll be really nice step in my own process to actually walk the Camino. And like you said, and I guess I just wanted to remind people as well that like the Camino can be whatever you make out of it, and once again, not to get attached to some sort of a goal. Like people, like I need to walk the Camino from this point to that point. But sometimes we get lost in the seeking to achieve a certain goal in life, and then we kind of forget the journey. So my recommendation when I do walk the Camino is if I get to a place that it charms me and it feels like, actually I might want to stick around here for a bit, I'm going to stick around for a bit. No, I'm not going to be a schedule that today I'm going to walk there, tomorrow there. You're not going to, it doesn't work for everyone. So make it as your in your work and in your journey, whatever you need. And 100% I'll be back on the Camino, and every journey is different, and look forward to seeing what the next journey is going to look like.
Yeah, onwards and upwards. And I think the other thing, just to finish on, really is it's interesting to be able to meet with and observe other pilgrims and their journeys. I mean, in your time in Terre de Luz, like you served a lot of pilgrims as well in your month there, and had a good chat with many people on their journeys. Do you feel that gives you an insight into the way that you may like to walk?
Well, yes and no. Like it was interesting to see how people are doing it. But I think for me, once I'm gonna start the journey, I know I'm gonna make it to my journey, and it's gonna look like my journey. But no doubt, it was beautiful to hear the stories about people's Caminos, and also hear their stories, and also hear their intention around the Camino, what they were there for. And just to touch on things what we spoke about before, it's like so beautiful meeting so many new people, and when people ask like, who are you? It's like every time you have to kind of think, well, wait a minute, what's my story before? Do I need to tell that story? Maybe I can actually give a bit more honest answer now. So there's, once again, like there's these other aspects of the Camino interactions that can be extremely healing if you just open yourself up.
Beautiful, brother. Thank you so much. Huh?
Welcome to Finland.
Yeah, thanks.
Why don't we go and sit in the sauna for warm us up a bit? -25.
It sounds like a beautiful idea, and I just want to say I'm very, very thankful for our meetings, and very proud of the journeys that you've been taking, the work you've been doing. I think it's a great inspiration to many. And thanks for sharing with us today, and look forward to seeing you in the warmer climes soon.
Oh, thank you, brother. And vice versa, likewise, also, I'm very grateful of your guidance to these practices and everything you've done in my journey and my life. So deeply appreciated that.
A real pleasure. Good journeys. Been in and out of journeys.
Yeah.
See you again soon. Adios de Laponia from Lapland. I think it's time to go inside and get some heat back into our extremities, huh?
I think it's a good idea. It's not hot yet.
It's not hot. Good journeys to everybody. Muchas gracias for tuning in. Wisdomoftheway.com is where you can sign up for our newsletter for transformative walking retreats, courses, and free practices. Also, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends so that we can bring you more stories of these inspiring Caminos. Many blessings for your inner and outer journey.